Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. My name is Daniel Cobb. I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, let's hope for better tonight.
Right, Dan.
I've been looking forward to the show all day. I mean, I always look forward to the shows, obviously, Keith, but we need to put it right after last night. We had lots of audio technical problems, and it's time to put it right.
Yeah, I blame Henrik, the Swedish producer, for that. Henrik had his day, but it was probably at the turn of the century. I fear that this new technology... You know the same player he was?
No, listen, I didn't want to say it, but we'll deal with Henrik later on. The only place...
I see that you're having to put the noise cancellers on.
I know, the cat...
A nervous reaction to how bad...
I'm taking all the precautions required to make sure this one goes all right.
It's your fault.
No, you're breaking up, Keith.
Yeah, I
know. The guys that are in Poland for Record Sports, Scott McDermott and Andy Newport, we're hopeful that one of them, I think Scott, is going to join us hopefully any minute from there. But obviously the only place for us to start, Keith, is Poland. Rangers 2-1 defeat in their opening Europa League game.
Yeah, so Derek McInnes has now opened up with back-to-back defeats, which is a trend that he won't want to extend much further.
Sorry to jump in, Keith, but Dundee United was a draw, mind.
Oh, well, sorry. That's right. But 2 games that he's failed to win. Now, what I meant that was, you remember when Barry Ferguson was in there was that talk about, they've gone 5, 6, whatever it was, without winning a game.
Yeah.
Derek would be desperate to get his first win under his belt. But it never really looked likely tonight. I have to say, disjointed all over the pitch in the first half. No real balance. I've taken some notes. I mean, obviously, I think there was a debut for Yokota, who looked lively in bits. He's got a turn of pace. He looks as if he's got decent feet in terms of ball control and all that. I think he'll be fine, but it just wasn't working. The whole balance of the team was off. I have to say, Dan, I didn't think the defence looked right. I didn't think the midfield was particularly balanced, and I thought they had nothing up front. So there's big issues if the 3 sort of departments of your team aren't functioning properly, and they're not, and they didn't function properly at Tannadice. So these are early days for Derek McInnes, and I'm entirely sure that we'll turn it around. But I do think, and I said after the game at Tannadice, I think he might have had a little surprise at how much work is actually required. He might have had a nasty shot after Tannadice. Trolleyed a nasty shot in that first half again tonight. Thought he turned it around. We'll come back on it because I think I can hear Scott joining us. I've got pass marks here for the first half performance and the second half performance. I've got to tell you, they don't make great readings from a Rangers perspective. It's Andy Scott.
Hi, we're joined now all the way from Poland by the one and only Andy Newport. Andy, we've only just gone live. What did you make of the Rangers' performance and the result tonight?
Self-inflicted, I think it's the way to describe it. I thought Rangers up until they conceded the equaliser were pretty comfortable. Obviously, get that goal, really sort of a good goal from Rangers' point of view. Good sort of link up between two Romans and Mohamed Diamande. Gets him, tempts the OG from the Jagiellonia player, but from that point on, just individual mistakes killed him. And if it wasn't for the goalkeeper, it could have been a heavier scoreline in the end. Just criminal stuff. I mean, like Ross McCrory had a real torrid night. The wee sort of winger that was up against him sort of turned him inside out. Manny Fernandez, so casual, just so casual with the way he's defending. Swings a leg out at the ball and it keeps into the corner of the net. And then, for the second goal, Dan Neil has to see the pass out to the right hand side for Ross McCrory. Doesn't, tries to play through a sort of really crowded, congested area on the edge of the box. Give it the Poles credit, they countered really well, but again it's a horrible slip. I've got to say, I thought the playing surface tonight was absolutely atrocious. Rangers players really struggled all night to try and stay on their feet. There were so many sort of near misses with guys losing their footing. Comes at a horrible time. The ball goes in, the player gets a strike away. Pandur makes a great save but can do nothing about the follow-up. So listen, I thought they were better in the second half. Raskin coming on, giving a bit more energy, a bit more bite. But you've got to say, look at this Rangers team, they are so disjointed. Clearly it's early days in Derek McInnes's reign, but there's so many guys that just look like they're strangers to one another. Even the guys that were here last year don't seem to have the partnerships that they would have had last year. So listen, I think there's a lot of work for Derek McInnes to do to get this team not only through this tie, but for looking to be able to compete for prizes longer term.
And I think what will concern watching the first couple of games that he's had in charge, the body language of some of the guys that were there last season. There's almost like a blame culture that's seeped into the dressing room. When things don't go right, there's people shouting at each other. There doesn't feel to be the unity that a Derek McInnes side is going to depend upon. You look at what they had at Hearts, what he managed to get together and galvanise in that Hearts dressing room. It's miles off in this Rangers squad just now. I don't know if that's something that will correct itself at the end of the window. But I just feel, I think you're absolutely spot on. That's Fernandes now, had 2 games. Now, he's a quality big player with a lot of attributes, every attribute you need to make it, to a really high level in the game. But if he doesn't switch on and be more committed and determined to do his defensive duties, he's not going to get any further than where he is right now. That's a couple of games. They've conceded 3 goals and Fernandes has played a part in all 3 of them. That's a worry. He's also brought in the new signing from South Africa, decided that he wasn't ready to play. Trory, as you said, Andy, I thought he'd come on a better game after the half-time break. Didn't think he was great. He could have easily been taken off at half-time. I just think there are so many problems that he's attempted to fix all at one time here. I think the early indications are he's got a lot of work to do before he actually kind of gets his mind on what is his best 11. I think he's miles away from that just now.
Yeah, I think, again, he gave, we were talking about, me and Scott and McDermott were talking about this before the game, he's given certain players chances, like Jagiellonia, hadn't really done anything during pre-season to suggest that he should have got a start tonight, but, he's been given an opportunity with guys still sort of coming in, finding their feet, and, again, 45 minutes, pretty hopeless, taking off. Just on the point about, the camaraderie in the squad, listen, I think you can't expect to throw 9-10 players into a squad and them all become best mates right away. Listen, that's that unity, that spirit within the squad is something that can only takes place naturally. What will help would be winning a few games. Obviously, the 2 games into the season now and still waiting for that first win. But the thing that I just wonder about this Rangers team and the way it's been put together this summer was that we've been speaking to some people at the club and they admitted that last summer when Russell Martin came in, they did too much too soon. I think Russell Martin even said that himself in an interview he gave a few weeks back. They made too many changes and too early in the process of him getting into the job. Again, they've had to do that again this summer though because they had 6-7 loanees last year, so they had to bring in a whole new raft of guys. But you can see that this is a squad that's still desperately trying to work out, the partnerships, who's supposed to go where, who's supposed to be positioned where. I mean, there was times that second half when, fair play Nico Raskin, he comes on, he wants to try and, lead the charge, get Rangers back in, but he was running on top of players, and he's bumping into his own teammates at times in his desperation just to get on the ball, and it just looked all a bit messy. I mean, in the second half, there was a couple of times where the Poles had a breakaway opportunity, and it's just because Rangers' shape totally vanished. It just looked a bit of a mess. Listen, I think these things can happen, especially when you're trying to get back into a game. But the fact is that Rangers are still a long way away from where they want to be, and it's the only way that's going to be fixed is one, time in the training pitch, which you don't get much of at this time of the season. The second is better standard of player coming in. Obviously, Yokota came in and he looked okay in the first half. A couple of nice moments, but I just felt Rangers didn't get the ball out to him an awful lot, and then obviously he gets taken off at half time when McInnes makes the changes. So listen, I think it's it's a far from tie over, but Rangers are going to have to really improve quite substantially next week at Ibrox if they get through this one.
I think that's the overall takeaway for me, Andy. I expected the Polish side to be absolutely better than they were. I don't think they're great shakes. I think they're a decent side, but they're bang average in a sort of European context. And I think that Rangers, with another week on the training pitch, I think they'll get through this tie. I think they'll have too much for them at Ibrox. But so they should, because now that I've seen them for 90 minutes, they're not top level. They're far from it.
No, they were a decent side, as you say, but I mean, it's a kind of opposition that Rangers, up until last season, would have taken care of quite comfortably. But as we've seen that, Rangers have really had their confidence in Europe knocked by what happened last year. I think that's now 9 games away from home without a win in Europe. So Rangers, when this was a competition that when all things were sort of falling apart domestically, this was what they could rely on to sort of lift spirits. Well, that's no longer the case. So I don't think they can take any tie for granted right now, and as I say, to get through next week, they're going to have to be far, far better.
I know, Andy, you've got post-match duties to be getting on with, but before we let you go, a couple of the comments, people writing in. Blue Nose John says Curtis had a really good half. Rebel as well. Curtis looked their best player. I did think he really changed Rangers in the second half.
Yeah, I thought he was lively. The one thing you can always count on Finlay Curtis is he likes to get shots off, and he gets so close at the end with that sort of volley. I think there'll be a few other players that will be frustrated with themselves. I mean, Cammy Devlin had a great chance in the second half, but he just failed to pull the trigger. Taylor Asgard's got himself into a couple of nice positions. I think that's the frustration as well. Yusuf Chamiti again gets the nod to start, and it's just anonymous largely for it. I think he himself is another one that has to do more, not just on the ball but off the ball. He has to get himself in better positions. He has to get himself in front of his defender more. There was too many times he was either the wrong side of his defender or he was easily brushed off. So listen, everybody, including Derek McInnes himself, who I'm sure he will be looking at him saying, what can I do better? But there's no doubt that on individual performances people have to improve, because it was the individual mistakes that cost Rangers tonight. Team wise they weren't great, but what really hurt them was guys making big mistakes at key moments.
And this, just finally, Andy, were you surprised that Lauren Shanklin didn't start? I was quite surprised.
Not only in the sense that because he's been made captain, you always can't expect if he's been made captain, you're a guy that's going to be first name of the team sheet. But me and Scott did discuss this on the Rangers podcast yesterday, that we thought it might be an option. I just don't think this was maybe the game, the occasion, with the heat, with the amount of running that was going to have to be done. I just didn't think it was the occasion for him. Obviously, he did come on. When Rangers were sort of throwing bodies into the box late on, he has one that he nearly stabs over the line. He gets a header down, but by that point it was just all a bit harum scarum. Rangers were just desperate. I think that was the thing. Rangers they had control of the game like 10 minutes and they let it go just because they made silly, sloppy mistakes. So yeah. I mean, I think if they can get themselves back into the game at Ibrox, get themselves level, I think you'll see them growing confidence from there. But listen, there's no doubt that this team are no monks, and Rangers are going to have their work cut out back at Ibrox.
Brilliant, Andy. Massively appreciate you joining us on Hotline Live. Much appreciated. I'm sure I'll be pestering you again soon.
Cheers, Andy.
Cheers, boys. Speak soon. Cheers, boys.
Safe travels up the road as well.
Thanks, boys.
Cheers, Andy. Andy Newport there, Keith. Let me throw a few of the comments that are coming in at you, and if you're watching at home, let us know your thoughts on Rangers' performance tonight.
We do that. See what Andy was saying there about Chamiti? I absolutely second that. And earlier on today, there was stuff coming out of Turkey. You can't be too sure about stuff that comes out of Turkey in terms of transfer news. They can be notoriously tricky operators. But there is a suggestion that Besiktas might be prepared to throw the kitchen sink at getting Chamiti, and we're talking about big numbers north of £20 million. If that's the case, I would be absolutely biting their arm off for that sort of cash, because he again tonight, and when he came off the bench at Tynecastle, he looked a little bit more interested. I mean, he was interested in flashes tonight, but it's nowhere near enough. And if that sort of money is being made available for a player that cost Rangers more than they should have spent on him last summer, if they can manage to turn it around, flip the coin and double their money on him in the space of 12 months, 12 largely unimpressive months with the occasional moment of absolute, incredible talent and skill, I think that's a deal Rangers should be looking to do all day long.
I completely agree.
It would help supply them with more funds going into this critical part of the transfer window. So that's one to keep an eye on.
Aye. No, I completely agree. If they could get that sort of money, it feels like a no-brainer to me. But in the comments, Keith, one guy that's taken a lot of stick, I'm quite kind of surprised, is Dan Neil. This one here from CDS Rangers says Daniel is Dowell in disguise. Why do we bring these types in? It's pathetic. Stuart says, how many times will Rangers be fooled to sign these useless championship duds? He's a mouse hiding. Asgard is dreadful. Let's stop kidding on. He's a player. I've got to be honest. I thought Daniel was actually one of Rangers' better players in the first half.
Yeah, I wasn't so sure.
No.
But I'm not joining in the kind of pile on him or anybody else for that matter. And I said the same after Celtic's performance at home to Dundee. Yes, they're saying, I mean, Celtic were obviously hoping for better from their new signings. Rangers, I'm sure, when Dan Neil walks out that tunnel, you're really expecting him with the captain armband on to kind of control the midfield. I don't think he was anywhere near controlling the midfield. I think he tried to play the sort of Callum McGregor role, try to get on the ball and dictate and things going through him. But he did it without the conviction of a Callum McGregor. Now, that's not easy done. We're talking about Callum McGregor. He's been one of the best midfielders in this country for I don't know how long now. But I think Rangers need more. They need somebody that can have the same impact on the team as Callum McGregor can at Celtic. On that performance tonight, I wasn't surprised to see him come off at half-time. I think he looks neat. I think he looks tidy. I think he tries to play those kind of line-splitting passes that McGregor plays for Celtic. But I think you need a whole lot more. I thought he looked half a yard off it, Dan, to be honest with you. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go through. Here's my...
Go for it.
That I've got from the first half, right? So it's 4 new signings. So 8 guys from last season. Panda, question mark. I didn't look great at the first goal, but I think that he's basically in the clear because it was mistakes that were getting made in front of him that I think caught him a little bit flat-footed. McCrory, no. Fernandez, no. Sterling, no. Romans, just about, and because of the good work that he did going forward, particularly with the early goal that Rangers got, albeit an own goal. Dan Neil, no. Diomande, no. Yukata, almost a question mark, but probably a no. Chukwani, no. Asgard, no. Chermiti, no. You can't go into a European qualifier and have 7 or 8 of your players not getting pass marks and expect to come away with anything other than a difficult result for the second leg. They corrected it a little bit. That was a 4-2-3-1 formation. He's kind of changed it to almost like a 4-4-1-1, pushing Asgard into a more central area to see if he could get more out of him there. I actually think Asgard's going to have a big season. I think there is a real player there. But I wonder if it is going to be a little bit hot and cold, as one of the comments said there. I wonder if he is one of these players that you can't rely on him for, to be an 8 out of 10 games in a row. You might get an 8 out of 10 followed by a 5 out of 10, followed by a 7 or 8 or a 9, followed by a 3 or a 4. He'll need to find a level of consistency if he wants to be, and he said he wants to be the main man. You can only be the main man if you can be relied upon game in, game out. I wouldn't hammer him tonight for the second goal that Rangers lost, even though he gave it away. I think in that he's on the edge of the penalty box. You're entitled to think he's supposed to be a difference maker. If the flick comes off and Daniel goes in and scores, it's a bit of absolute genius from Theo Asgard.
Yeah.
I don't think if you're on the edge of the opposition box, you can be blamed for being the cause of a concession of a goal. You'd like to think as an attacking player that the rest of the team set up behind you, that if this doesn't come off, we're not going to lose a goal from here. So I give him a free pass on that one, but overall performance level, not good enough. He moves into the middle for the second half. He was okay and nothing more than that. He had one chance at goal, blazed it over the top, but in terms of what his overall sort of contribution, I didn't think was good enough. So again, after the break, Pandor, nothing really to do. McCrory, a little bit better, but still not good enough to play that position. I think he's a trier, Ross McCrory, and you'll get all the physical effort. And actually, people say he's slow. I don't think he is slow. I think he's quick enough over the ground. I don't know if he's quick enough up here. Would be my worry for Rangers in a European competition. I would have concerns, and I was surprised that he came back out for the second half because, as Andy said, the boy Smith had him in toast in that first half. So that's another concern. Fernandez and Sterling a little bit better after the break, I thought. Romans again did okay. Diomande stayed on the pitch, went out to a kind of wider right position. I didn't think contributed enough. Devlin, Raskin and Curtis were the three massive plus points for Derek McInnes. To a lesser extent, Dragovic when he came off the bench. But those three, I thought, really turned the momentum of the tie tonight, of the game itself. The energy, the sort of drive, the determination, everyone went up a notch with the three of them. Particularly Curtis, who I agree, I think it was what Rebel said there, Rangers' best player, probably was on the night. But I thought the sort of the control they had in the midfield was non-existent in the first half. But Devlin and Raskin, I felt, changed that, and I feel like the Polish side struggled against that industry in the middle of the pitch. I agree with Andy. I wasn't sure who was playing right and who was playing left of the pair in centre mid. I think they were swallowing it about a little bit. One was going, one was staying. That happens. But I do think that they added a bit of bite and energy and drive into the middle of the pitch. And a wee bit of an invention. Raskin picks Finlay Curtis out with an absolutely sublime ball over the top, and Curtis actually volleys it. I think he hits it with the wrong foot. Volleys it with the outside of his right foot. Maybe it wasn't going to come across his left because there was a defender tight up against him. It was a great effort though, great effort off the bar. Curtis probably played his way into a starting position for the game at home at Hibs at the weekend. And I'm pleased for him because he'll know, he's heard all the press conferences, he's heard Derek McInnes saying, I'm screaming out for wide players. Finlay Curtis there got his chance, and I thought he took it in that 45 minutes. Just a reminder to Derek McInnes, I'm here, I can do a job for you, don't discount me. Chermiti again, second half, nothing. So these are big concerns for Derek McInnes. And I think he'll probably be tempted. Andy's talking about don't make too many changes at one time. Well, you've got no choice but to make changes to that squad because the squad wasn't fit for purpose. It came third in a two-horse race last season. Big changes were absolutely required. I'm actually looking at it and wondering if there's enough changes to the starting lineup just now. I think Derek McInnes might want to get more of the old guard, more of the guys that clearly weren't good enough previously, and get more of the new guys in. What I think the difference would be is last season they had to do that as well. But Russell Martin, as well as changing the personnel, was also trying to reinvent the wheel in the terms of the way that he wanted the game to be played. I think that was the too much part of last season. Changes in personnel, new recruitments, they were absolutely required as they are again this summer. Whether or not you want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and you know, I mean, remember what it was like. It was chaotic this time last summer when you've got Nico Raskin almost playing as a left winger and clearly not happy about it, and Max Aarons playing left back inverted, but almost playing in a centre midfield position to push Raskin out. And that was all over the shop. At least I think Derek McInnes will restore a bit of order to the proceedings. But I do wonder if, in terms of the personnel, I think the more new faces he can bleed into that team as quickly as possible, the better.
You sort of stole my thunder there, Keith, because there's a lot of people in the comments asking, did he pick the wrong starting 11? Let me run through a few of the comments for you. Alex says, maybe giving Raskin a new deal would be a good option. Him and Devlin as the pairing, I think, would add bite. Morpheus says, where's the Scottish identity we all agreed we needed? Filling the squad with average foreigners. Williams says, Big Fernandes thought he was Fernandes Beckenbauer. 1953 Big Brother says, Rangers need to give Curtis a run in the first team. CDS Rangers says, Pandur parries the ball back into danger areas when shot stopping, and that's a massive worry. And as I say, a lot of people questioning the starting lineup. McInnes needs questioned. The lineup was shocking. Although David, I think, makes a good point. He says everyone needs to calm down. Derek will come good. He needs support, not derision. I mean, we should remember, Keith, it's 180 minutes into the season. It's not exactly crisis time yet.
See, before we've gone any further, Dan, I'm a little bit concerned what you've been looking up on your computer because I'm really worried about what might be about to flash up on your hotline. you might want to correct that. No idea.
Let me have a look.
I know you disappeared for a while. In terms of look, I completely agree with that. Derek McInnes, look, there's always a rush to judge, and Derek McInnes, unfortunately for Derek McInnes, has come into this job a moment in time when Rangers have just been churning over one manager after the next and spitting them back out again. Because for me, they've been the wrong guys. The guys that were never up to the job, guys that had no real understanding for the requirements. Derek McInnes is not only having to deal with the consequences of these kind of years of turmoil, bad investments, dubious recruitment. He's having to deal with that in his first summer. He's also having to try and get into the mindset of these guys. He'll have to sift through them and work out who can be trusted. Derek McInnes, what I'm saying is, I know that patience is running on fumes with Rangers supporters, and understandably so. One title out of the last 15, that's why. But I think they've got the right guy in here. It just might take him a little while to figure out the jigsaw. And I know he's not going to get it forever, because you don't in this environment. But I think they've got the right guy. He'll find the solutions. But it's just such a mess just now. The squad's a mess. This summer of comings and goings and ins and outs, that's a bit shambolic. I think Derek McInnes is the right man to sort through all this, but he's been dealt a pretty chaotic hand at this early stage, and it hasn't helped him the fact that he was crying out for these wide players. He gets one in the door ahead of this game, but I don't think the boy even had time to train with his new teammates. And what I did feel was the second half went on, you kind of got to realise that, because he doesn't know yet what his teammates are capable of. Because it got, how many times did you see towards the end of that first half in particular, he kind of dropped inside and he let McCrory go down the outside, and McCrory was getting into the areas to provide the crosses, which is what Derek McInnes brought him into to play in the advanced areas, not to drop off to let Ross McCrory get in the overlap. He's been brought in to add that finesse and quality and craft in the final third. And I wonder if that was part of the reason why a decision was made, because he looked quite bright in spots. But if Rangers are going to do anything or achieve anything this year, it won't be with Ross McCrory being a rampaging right back. Even though some of his deliveries were okay, the point is he's not been brought in to be a difference maker. He's been brought in to be a squad filler. And the guys that you're paying top dollar for, the guys that you think can make that difference for you, you want them on the ball in those areas of the pitch. That's the whole point in trying to increase the quality in those areas of the attack.
Absolutely. The final thing on Rangers, Keith, a lot of the Rangers fans in the comments, some of them quite scathing, but some of them are actually really confident still. AF Scott says Rangers will progress against that side, partly because they are poor, but I think the extra week in conditions will side with Rangers. They have an easy tie on paper in the playoff round if they win. Stephen says easy 4-0 win at Ibrox. Green Machine says this team are more than capable of going through at Ibrox. Rangers huffed and puffed. Do you think they'll go through?
Yeah,
Rangers?
I do. Yeah, I saw enough. I said after Hibs' first leg away from home that when they get back, they'll turn that tie around at Easter Road. I wouldn't have been before seeing that game tonight, before seeing the 90 minutes, before seeing and making a judgment that I think the Polish side's pretty average. I would have thought if Rangers come away with a 2-1 defeat from the first leg, they're going to be in a perilous position going into the game at Ibrox. Having watched what they're up against there, I think if Derek McInnes gets his selection right, has another week in the training field, gets to know the players, gets to I think a big thing for Rangers would be if they can get the first win under the belt as quickly, the first opportunity, and that's Hibs on Sunday. That would give them some momentum to go into the European tie on the Thursday night. From what I saw from that tonight, I'm sure that Derek McInnes will come up with the solutions for the second leg. I'm pretty confident now after that, actually, even though I didn't think it was a great Rangers performance. I think they should have more than enough to win that tie. Look, who's to say if it's going to be a squeaky bum time and extra time and all that? I don't know, but I actually look at that and I think if Rangers are doing the work properly, they should be able to win that tie in 90 minutes at Ibrox.
Michael points out Kobe Ashe was brilliant for Jagiellonia tonight, and he actually was. He didn't make the grade at Celtic, but I thought he was really good tonight.
Strong.
Aye. In the comments, Keith, away from Rangers, Ross writes in saying Scottish teams in Europe are becoming abysmal. No wonder we're a laughing stock across the world. Well, I would counter that, Ross. Motherwell, what a result for them, Keith. 1-1 away to HJK Helsinki. They were leading 1-0 through to Wanda Maswanisi's penalty. Timu Pukki, who must be at least 55 by now, equalised for them. But a really good result for Motherwell.
Yeah, and without Ibrahim Said, who I think had some sort of travel document issue that meant that he couldn't make the trip. And he's shaping up as a real big contributor for Motherwell this season. Look, do you know what? We can't sugarcoat it. I'm not going to attempt to polish any turds here. Another Scottish side has lost another European tie tonight, and it's one of the ones that you would hope would be adding points into the coefficient bank for us. That hasn't happened. Rangers will look upon that as teething problems, I'm sure. A few weeks into the season, these early difficult games will be forgotten about. Rangers, given if they weren't having to start from scratch all over again, I think they'd have been confident of winning home and away against Jagiellonia. So that's a blow. Motherwell, look, see a draw away from home in Europe, absolutely delighted with that in terms of what Scotland need to achieve, what our clubs need to achieve in the European arena. And I fancy Motherwell. I really fancy Motherwell. You know what I think of them? And I think I'd be really hopeful that they'll win at home. Big crowd, packed Fir Park. They'll enjoy themselves. I think they're tailor-made to have a little tilt at Europe this year, Motherwell. And I've fingers crossed them. That's what we're looking for now. We're looking for Motherwell, Rangers, both to win at home next week. Start contributing, start building up points again, because we're really in a slippery slope right now. And I don't have any great faith in Hearts stopping the rot tonight at Benfica. I'm pretty anxious about that from a Hearts perspective.
I was going to say that, Keith. That's the last thing that I was going to bring up, because we've had comments writing in. You know, McKenna, who's a regular Hearts fan, he's on regularly rather. He wrote in earlier saying, "I think I need a sedative before tonight," which is fair comment. And a lot of people, Billy is another one, saying brilliant from Motherwell, but I feel for Hearts. Kevin saying, "How do you think Hearts will get on tonight?" It's really difficult to see anything other than a Benfica win.
Listen, you know what I've said it a couple of times now. I fear a little bit without a ranking that is he an unlucky manager? Because Lady Luck doesn't seem to be on his side right now. And when you say about how's your luck, having lost your first 3 games as Hearts manager and Derek McInnes's replacement, to then get told, what's next in the fixture? Oh, what? Benfica? No. Let's see if Hearts can stay in the contest tonight. If they can give themselves a chance of getting through in the second leg, I'll actually be quite surprised. If they can, I think I've predicted 3-0 Benfica, and that might be the best that Hearts can hope for. I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that they go and make me look daft, which wouldn't be that difficult, and go and turn in a big performance and get that kind of springboard result for the season. But I fear, what was the phrase that I used for Rangers this time last year? It'll get worse before it gets better. I think that now can apply to Hearts for the start of this season at least. I think tonight might be a difficult evening.
I completely agree. Michael says it'll be 5-0 Benfica. Fingers crossed, it's certainly not that. Whatever happens, you'll be able to find the latest updates on Hearts and all the Scottish teams in Europe on Record Sport Online. But for now, Keith, I think that brings us to the end of Thursday night's Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. Sunday, you mentioned Rangers are playing Hibs. They don't kick off till 4 o'clock, so we might be a little bit later.
Yeah, well, probably about 6:30 or something like that on Sunday night. I think that probably a decent time slot for us, Dan.
Yep, 6:30 sounds good to me. Thank you very much for all your comments tonight. We massively appreciate it, and hope you can join us on Sunday. Thankfully, no audio problems tonight, Keith. We're back to our best.
You just keep the sound cancellers on me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you can join us Sunday. Cheers.